Hey gang, it's Jeff Black here again from Beachmont Ford Performance, and once again, you see I am out here in the garage for another episode of Garage Table Discussion. Now, it's been a while since I've had a guest out here in the garage, so I'm going to tell you about my guest here in a second. But this whole episode is kind of geared as a follow-up to my previous episode of Garage Table Discussion where I was talking about the new car inventory shortage right now in the United States and worldwide. I actually had a person from Australia and UK contact me on my page and told me, say, hey, it's not just the United States. So anyway, I have invited my buddy Nate to come in, and Nate is also a Beachmont Ford employee, and we are going to talk about the used car market right now. So before we do that, Nate, tell me something. Do you consider yourself a car guy?
I'd say absolutely. I mean, I do it for a living. I'm the buyer for the dealership, so I'm looking at thousands of cars on a daily basis. And for some weird reason, I don't get bored of it. And then I go home and I got a couple of toys in the garage. The wife's got a toy. Truth be told, in a couple of weeks, we're going to a car show. That's what we do in our free time. So to answer your question, absolutely. Just all makes and models. It's just always been a passion.
Yeah, good. All right, well, let's talk about this car market right now because it's very, very different. So when you're looking at used cars right now, especially, how do you even decide what something's worth right now?
It's unique for sure. I've been doing this roughly 8 years, and I've never seen anything like it. It's a combination of the used car or the new car shortage, and you pair that with tax time, money in the market, stimulus money coming in.
Right.
It's definitely unique. Every time I think, okay, the market's at its peak, the next week it's even higher. So from a valuation standpoint, it really just depends on what you're looking at. The old adage is, mileage, trim, options, condition of the vehicle, is it well maintained, any existing damage, stuff like that. And then you kind of dive down into the niche stuff and what's popular. Obviously a crew cab is more valuable than an extended cab. Pretty basic stuff like on an F-150. There's a sports car season, so your GT350R behind us, for this year, now this is kind of a caveat, it's this year, but it's worth the most in spring.
Right.
Nobody wants to buy a muscle car, a sports car, and then park it in the garage all winter. So that's just the natural piece of it. There's a minivan season for spring break. There's always a peak, right before spring break. Traditionally, where families, go on spring break, let's buy a van. Our Old Town and Country has got 170,000 miles on it. We're going to upgrade.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of things that go into it, but right now it's really just looking at what makes sense, our inventory and usually what sells is what's in your normal market. At a Ford dealership, we sell a lot of Ford product, but we also sell a lot of domestic product. You usually don't come to a Ford dealership looking for a Benz or a BMW. It just makes sense, right? So that's kind of the gist on how you look at it, and really valuation is, like I said, it's just age, mileage, options, and condition of the vehicle.
Yeah, so as we were talking about on my previous episode, if you're maybe you got a spare car sitting around right now that you're not really using. If it's a good condition or a newer vehicle, you might think about selling it right now because this would be a good time to do that. Or if you are trading in, it's still a good time to get a little bit more out of the trade-in.
Absolutely. The market is about as stout as I've ever seen it. So, for 15, 20 minutes of your time, get you a number and see if it makes sense for you. If not, at least you educated yourself a little bit.
Right.
So.
Well, obviously, my department, we're into the performance side of it. So I know that we get this a lot when people are looking at either trading in or selling a vehicle that they've done a lot of performance modifications to. How does that affect, the trade-in or value of a vehicle?
From just a market standpoint, it's tough because anytime you modify a vehicle, right, you're modifying it to your taste. Well, your taste may be vastly different from the next customer.
It's true.
So I always use this kind of, and I'm going to use some hand gestures, but a stock car's got a market this wide, right? The stock one is bone stock.
Right.
We'll take a Mustang, right? You lower it. Well, maybe somebody doesn't want a lowered Mustang. It's tough to get in and out of. They don't like the ride height. So your market went from here to here, right? Because now it's lowered.
Okay.
Then you put a supercharger on it, right? So maybe somebody doesn't want to deal with that maintenance or they don't know anything about a supercharger. So now it goes from here to here. And then maybe you tint the windows and somebody doesn't like the tint or they can't see at night. So then your market goes here to here. So anytime you modify a car, you're obviously modifying it to your taste. You're spending the money, you're taking the time.
Right.
But again, it's always important to remember that your tastes are vastly different. So you've taken your market segment that's this big on stock and now you're looking for the same individual that has the same opinion and likes that you do. So mods don't really add value. They don't necessarily hurt it either. You have to understand that you're limiting your market. And I always tell somebody that, it's always better to sell a car stock than is modified.
Right. I mean, if you're private selling, I mean, that maybe you're trying to target that exact particular market. But for a dealership, we're selling a wide variety. So, John comes in looking at a Mustang for him and his wife. Maybe it's just a weekend car.
Yep.
And he's going, yeah, this thing's got way more on it than I want. Do you got a regular Mustang around here? So it does limit the market a little bit of who we can sell it to. And I've always said that, if I'm going to spend money modifying a car, I basically kind of in my own mind say that's money I'm probably not going to get back.
That is absolutely true.
Yeah,
absolutely true.
Just the same thing for me traditionally buying a car like this car. A GT350R it's holding its value very well right now.
It is.
But I have never bought a car thinking, this thing's going to be worth a lot of money. Because if it is worth a lot of money, it's probably going to be once I've been in the ground for quite a while.
It's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, there's you buy it for fun, for pleasure. You buy it for investment.
Right.
That's really, how when you're buying a toy or something of a niche car, that's kind of usually the way it works.
Yeah, the old saying, to play, you got to pay.
Yep.
So if you want to have a fun performance vehicle, more power to you. I'm happy to help you out with that. But just keep in mind that, as far as ever selling it or trading it in, you might be limiting yourself a little bit.
Absolutely.
All right, so what do you think? I mean, we know what's going on right now. Well, we sort of know what's going on right now.
As best you can.
What do you think's going to happen over the next year?
If I had a crystal ball, I'd be a lot wealthier. That's, but the reality of it is you really don't know.
Yeah.
Obviously there's this massive chip shortage. It's not just Ford, it's other manufacturers. And there's a giant shortage in the industry. When that faucet comes back on, when the chips get out there,
right.
It was in the news a couple of weeks ago that there's all these F-150s down in Sparta at the racetrack.
Right.
Detroit's the same way. There's Sparta times 4 because it's the epicenter of Ford.
Right.
But, to answer your question, who knows? Some speculation amongst other dealers and people in the industry going to auction houses like I do and talking to some higher ups. I've heard late summer, things will start to normalize. I've heard 2022. But even at that, it's going to be unprecedented because we've never had this before.
It's true.
So now you've got a new car shortage, but when all these chips come out, then you've got a new car surplus.
Right.
And you've got 2022 model year coming out very short after.
Right.
So what does that look like?
Yeah.
So again, it's going to be a roller coaster for the next 12 months. But to answer your question,
because I mean, not only Ford, but like you said, the other manufacturers are suddenly going to have a lot of vehicles that they're going, hey gang, we got to sell these.
Yep.
So it could go where right now the used car market is very, very hot. And I'm sure used cars are always going to be in demand.
Absolutely.
But, I mean, with the inventory that's going to be out there, new car sales may suddenly start going through the roof.
Yeah, who knows? Again, it's going to be, it's a tidal wave. It's it's going to peak and crash very short after.
Well, I'll tell you what, when we get done today with this episode, I didn't want to tell anybody this, but I've got my own little crystal ball over here. We'll get it out and we'll figure it out.
Sounds like a plan. I'll give you my insight for sure.
All right. Hey, gang, I hope this has helped you a little bit. Maybe if you're in the market or you're looking at selling or whatever, maybe gives you just some ideas on where things are and maybe where they're going to go. So, Nate, I really want to thank you for stepping in here to the garage, and it's been a pleasure having you.
Absolutely.
And, guys, we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Jeff Black, your BFP Dream Builder from Beachmont Ford Performance, along with Nate Hale. And, guys, have a great week. Look forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.